Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Apologies for the slight delay. With that slight delay out of the way, I'd like to introduce 5 visions of a PDF future. So I will skip introducing that we will introduce people, and I will just go ahead to introduce PDF and where it's been over the past 25 years in 25 seconds. 1993, PDF was born. In 2008, PDF was born as an ISO standard. In 2018, PDF is 25 years old. If you're from the United States, that means PDF can finally go rent a car without paying extra. And like any 25-year-old, PDF feels that it is dominant and on top of the world and can go anywhere without paying a daily surcharge. But like any 25-year-old, it's so hard to picture what life's going to be like in 25 more years in 2043 when PDF is 50 years old. Will we still use PDF? If so, how? Will the key value propositions hold up over time? Will they go out of style? Will PDF rise above its roots as a lowest common denominator visual representation? Will it live forever, or is PDF bound to be mortal like the rest of us? Who knows? Maybe one of the 5 people on stage knows. So very distinguished panel. So, Catherine Andersz from PDFTron, Richard Cohn from Adobe, one of the original authors of PDF, Harald Grumser from Compart, Carsten Heiermann from Foxit Europe, and Duff Johnson from the PDF Association. Ooh. No, let's not tease people. Let's actually just get to talking about what we're going to talk about. So I'd like to welcome Catherine to the stage from PDFTron. Catherine, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So my slide is very simple, and basically my vision for the future of PDF is also fairly simple. Basically, I do think that PDF will be even more pervasive in the future. It will permeate various use cases and applications, and users might not even actually know that they're using PDF. That's what I think. It will basically become part of the web platform, part of applications, and just like we're watching Netflix nowadays, we don't know what's powering Netflix, the underlying technologies, what file formats are used and things like that. We just want to work. Users just want to work and get their job done and access their content and without limitations. I do think basically PDF will blend with the surrounding technologies around it. And I guess, yeah, the question is why. And I do think that basically it is because of the fact that it will transcend the page. Up to now, the key value prop of PDF was that it enables a cheap, simple, and reliable way of communicating and exchanging information. And that value prop will never go out of style. It will always exist. Because it's very important for people simply to get on the same page. They need to communicate effectively and quickly. But at the same time, as Matt mentioned, PDF grew from the beginning. It's sort of in its 20s right now, and it has grown up. It needs new use cases, and it needs to meet those new use cases. It needs to meet the future needs of users and what we might dream of doing next. And so basically, we have to figure out how to do that. And of course, there was a lot of talk so far, and it's PDF associations involved, and all of us are talking about evolving the format, changing the format, adding features to the format to meet different use cases and things like that. But do we really need to do that? Do we need to make the PDF format more complicated? And will it even solve the problem? It might not be the case. So what I think is more important is actually for PDF to potentially interact with and leverage existing as well as future technologies that we may build around it to enable it to be liberated, so to speak, to enable the content to be more repurposed, to enable future use cases, to enable reflow, whether it's data extraction, recognition, editing, and we will probably be able to do that maybe even faster than trying to evolve the format with techniques such as AI, machine learning, even blockchain or whatever else we come up with in the future. So I do believe basically the future of PDF lies in its ability and flexibility to interact with and leverage other technologies, and we might not even have to fix PDF that much. Actually, it's fairly good already. So this is my future vision.
Thank you, Catherine. Carsten?
Different order.
Yeah. 3 minutes.
Yeah. So it's in different order now. Okay, good. I'm next. I didn't put this on a proper beer mat that can go in a museum, right? Do you remember 20 years ago the vision the guy had or something like that? But I put it on a piece of paper. So in order to understand what 20 years from now, which was the original title, PDF could be, I thought it might be a good idea to understand my vision of where the world is in 20 years from now, because it's we are seeing an accelerated situation here. Things change so drastically and so fast. So where are we in 20 years from now? And I think nobody cares about PDF in 20 years from now because it's post-robot war apocalypse anyway. So thank you. No, I mean, it could as well be that the world got demolished by that time, but I think you all brought your towels, right, to make room for this interstellar highway. But maybe we're a little more lucky, and we have a little more bright future, and it could be a bright future that I envision in 20 years from now. So where are we? What's the world that PDF is facing in 20 years from now? Artificial intelligence is one of my keywords that I'm sure you all wouldn't doubt. I'm thinking about that we will be dominated by, not dominated like human mankind is dominated by, but our industry will be dominated by autonomous robots using those AI to do the hard work. We're probably includes autonomous driving. We're probably looking at a shift in our society. We're probably after the work for life paradigm. We're probably in an economy where we just really use a voluntary workforce. That is maybe 20% of all the people we have on this world. We're in an environment where we have a 100% sharing environment. Less and less people will be interested in owning things rather than using things. And that means we are in a 100% service-oriented world. So we use things, we pay for things by microtransactions, and if we do it all right, we might have a big wealth. We might have tremendous growth in GDP. So I'm envisioning a world that is bright if we don't break it. Highly fragmented services, probably tons of different service providers rendering those services to us, and thus huge amounts of daily microtransactions. And that's where I'm coming from. The bad news is we will still have taxes, probably transactional taxes or something like that. And for that, we need evidence, we need documents, we need PDF. So my vision is PDF will be around in 20 years from now. It will probably be the compatible connection point, the common denominator. So it will be back to the roots, the common denominator between all these different fragmented systems from the different service providers. It could be our transport format between those systems if they are not connected system to system. Could be an exchange hub and a middleware, for example, like Zugfahrt is today, trying to transport a visual rendition together with data between the systems. But I limit that a little bit to specific use cases in my view, which is use cases only where we need offline and maybe human readable, visible evidence in our documents. So what I mean is we do a microtransaction, we won't get a PDF document for that, but we might be seeing that we get a monthly statement of all my microtransaction. I need to file that sort of. I need to put that in an archive, and therefore I might really receive a PDF in this way or another, in an otherwise completely machine world, let's say. So it could be a constant in an otherwise very volatile environment and situation. And when I was thinking about what are the success factors for that, what do we need to do today in order to get into this bright future and in order to have PDF still stick around in 20 years from now? I was reminded, or it kind of resonated what Richard in his keynote yesterday said. He said, what's today's success factor of PDF? It is, and I quote that, we have a continuous need for a reliable format for exchange and archiving. And I think we need to stick with that in order to have a bright future for PDF. And in order to do so, please make sure we don't break it. So yes, we do have a need for mobile, of course, but please let us not over-engineer that, because we could very well break the basic paradigm of PDF and then ruin the future that is otherwise bright for PDF. Yes, we need to have a need for structured data, but maybe we can put that use case by use case as an add-on to PDF and not just make PDF the be-all, end-all, can do anything but nothing right? So let's be careful about how we develop it further. And for that, I think one of the most important thing I think we need to do is don't break the page paradigm. I don't know anybody who really wants to do that, but the page paradigm is something that is substantial to get your receipt, to get your document, to get something that is unchanged, something that is reliable in an otherwise very volatile world.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carsten. So PDF will enable heaven, but with taxes. Perfect. So Duff, may I welcome you to the stage? You will say 3 minutes.
What's that?
3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Where's my flipper? Oh, okay, I can move this. Okay, PDF package. If you pay attention to the PDFA website, I post the occasional article on the articles feed there, and so this won't be very new to you if you've read it there. A PDF package is an idea I've been playing with for some time now, and it's rooted in 3 basic ideas. Number 1, the need for documents isn't going away. There may be a world of developers out there who would wish that they would go away, but end users, damn them, they're pretty persistent, and they require a document, and they need a rendering, frankly, in many cases. And yet, they're perfectly right. The PDF is not enough. From an experiential level, from a reuse point of view, PDF simply doesn't cut it in the modern world. The piece of paper is not, while I completely agree with Carsten that we don't want to break that paradigm, we also want to be sure that we don't limit ourselves only to that paradigm. And thus far, the world's implementation of PDF tends to go in that direction. So in my view, HTML and CSS and JavaScript in that wonderful world delivers experiences. It doesn't really deliver documents. Databases, blockchains, fantastic new technologies, probably have great and critical ramifications for the world of documents, but that does not make them documents. So I have this idea, PDF package. It's not a new idea to me. And I'll explain why in a moment. It's the idea of PDF package, a lightweight content management platform. It's a PDF rendering plus a bunch of other stuff. Options developed as a matter of profiles on a per user, per industry, per vertical, per use case basis, as the case may be. Zugpferd is, in my way of thinking, one of perhaps the earliest profile of PDF that in fact embodies in many ways what I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about a PDF package. Machine readable data in that case. But it could be onboard metadata or other kinds of attached files that perform various functions. How will implementers know what to do with this stuff? There will need to be a profile. So there'll need to be agreements beyond PDF as to how to use these things. My friends in the US federal government have, in reading this article, got in touch with me to say, you know what, this is great. You should be doing case files with this. What do they mean? They mean that for the Department of Justice or the Homeland Security or the tax people or whatever, they have a concept of a case, all of them, in one way or another. And it revolves around a document and some other stuff. They want a way to put it together in a way that's commonplace and repeatable and interoperable. That sounds familiar. So PDF package, it has why is PDF important to a solution that would deliver a package of information that matters to somebody in the context of a document? PDF has some remarkable, very subtle, but nonetheless critical features. The ability to delete content. In the GDPR world, we're going to need the ability to delete content to make content safe for archiving and for use in other ways. You need to have this content be interoperable with external content and workflows. The old example is printing it out to a piece of paper and then scanning it back into a PDF. But there are many other examples similar to that. And these are somewhat subtle, perhaps, but they are no less critical to the commonplace identity or identification of a document. Technology neutrality, very important. Vendor neutrality. All aspects of the end user's experience need to be transparent so that developers have the equal ability to write PDF files and provide these similar types of situations. So that's PDF package in a nutshell, I suppose you could say. Thank you very much.
I welcome Richard to the stage. Got 1 second here. So, like 3 minutes.
Okay. So when I was trying to figure out what the world might look like in 2043, which still seems like a long way away, I was thinking about, well, think back 25 years and what was around then. And one of the things I found was the world's first smartphone on your left. And of course we know what a smartphone looks like today, right? And similarly, compare what was around 25 years ago. Like I mentioned yesterday, the web was around 25 years ago. The web browser also had its 25th anniversary this year. And so here's, again, a technology that was around 25 years ago and is around today. One more example. This is what a PDF page looked like 25 years ago. This is what it looks like now. So, and what that made me think, when we're thinking about 2043, is that the technologies that are going to change the world are probably here today, right? And the hard part is really figuring out which of those it is, right? We're talking about blockchain a lot. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't. Maybe it will be, smart home technology that is around today, but it's really hard to use. Or, other things are more predictable about being around in the future, like autonomous driving, right? But we really don't know. But given that, none of us really know what's going to happen. I think I was going to focus on what we can do to ensure that PDF is around in 25 years. And this is actually the slide I didn't show yesterday. And the first 2 points we already talked about, right? That it is pretty clear that the trend towards less and less paper is going to happen, right? I think, in 25 years, the home printer will be like a fax machine. People will have heard of them. A few people, a few Luddites will still have them, but most people won't. They might have one at their office, but they won't have the one at home. And so, will PDF matter? And as we were talking about yesterday, I think yes, right? Because, and actually, as some of us have said just now, having the replica of some transaction or something like that is still important. Right. And similarly, we know that there's going to be a further and further shift away from computers, desktop computers, where PDF does pretty well, to smaller screens where it doesn't do so well. And I think, again, it's really important to figure out how to make that work, be a better experience for people. And I think accessibility, I think everybody here doesn't need to be sold on it. Right, but I think we've all seen that, even now over the past few years, PDF loses out in some situations where it shouldn't, because although it can be accessible, it's way too hard, and we need to figure out ways to make that better, to make that more automatic, whether it's through machine learning, artificial intelligence, or just processes that make it better. And finally, this really goes. I didn't realize when I wrote this that it would be right after Doe's talk on open data, but the last point really goes to that we do need to at least provide the capability, and in many situations where it makes a lot of sense, to make documents more intelligent. And it doesn't mean changing the format. As he talked about, a lot of what's already there provides that capability, and that we just need to encourage people, encourage customers, encourage other people to take advantage of it. Thanks.
And finally, I'd like to welcome Harald to the stage. Harald, I believe you're just going to improvise, slideless. So,
Please, slideless. Thank you. Predicting the future is a very hard thing to do, and I will try to explain why that is. I'm probably on the elder side of the average here. When I was a kid, maybe in 6th grade, I learned how much people are living on Earth. That was 3.5 billion. That's about 40 years ago from now. A little bit more. It took mankind about, depending on how you count, 20, 30, 40,000 years to get from 0 to 3 billion. And it took mankind another 40 years to get from 3.5 billion to 7 billion. So predicting the future is sometimes very hard. And I think the reason for that is that people have a very linear thinking. Human beings have a tendency to think very linear, so things might accelerate extensively. So my thesis for PDF in the future is HTML will not replace PDF, because we have discussions, will HTML be more important? Will HTML replace PDF at some stage? I'm totally convinced that HTML will not replace PDF. But my antithesis, on the other hand, is that HTML will probably be the more important format if it comes to interchange information. I think we shouldn't overload PDF. I think whenever it comes to data and documents that are important, they will end up in PDF. Human beings, since about 4,000 years, have the intrinsic wish to put 2 holes into a sheet of paper and put it into the living room wardrobe, in the living room cabinet. So whenever things are important to us, whenever we think they should last, whenever we think that might be a topic of a lawsuit or whatever, we put. I think we will put things into PDF. So PDF, from my point of view, will be the end format for almost everything. And I'm quite convinced that in 25 years from now, we are not discussing how the hell do we get an application to produce PDF. We're not talking about how the hell can we auto tag to make it accessible. I think every application in 25 years that thinks that they might do something that is of importance will produce PDF. PDF will evolve. We might talk about a lot of other things in PDF. I hope that we are not overloading PDF. Otherwise, we might lose interest or acceptance of PDF. But I personally think that PDF will be the one and only format that's being used for long-term archiving. HTML is not good for long-term archiving. HTML is perfect for short-term things. Somebody said, why my boarding pass? I throw my boarding pass away after the flight. There's no need for me to have that in PDF. HTML is good enough for that. So I think PDF will become the most important format for archiving, for long-term storage, for keeping important things. Application will all produce PDF in some way, accessible PDF, of course. And I hope that also in 25 years we will hopefully work with a lot less applications than we do today to work to do specific tasks. That was my 5 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. 5 very interesting and enlightening visions of a PDF future, some very far-reaching. I'd like to welcome all the panelists to the stage at this time. The panel will be happy to accept your questions. Here, Richard.
We're going to start asking you questions if you don't ask us questions.
Any questions for the panel? I'm sorry?
There was a question. Oh.
So you guys all, talked about the form factor. You got to make the PDF smaller. Have you ever considered that a phone will be able to project a much larger screen? Then really nothing has to change, because a human needs to get context. And even though I can read flow, I want full context of the content.
you're saying less work for us.
It'll still be work, but I think the breakthrough will be, just as it was when I went mobile, you had to have a device, and a large screen. I think someone's going to solve it with work. I don't know, that's fine.
Yes.
Take the mic.
That may happen. Physically, I think it would make a big difference because it's still an eye problem and a problem of distance. But let's assume that the form factor would work out. I think people still want responsive documents. They don't want documents to scroll down 10 pages. They want the most important piece on the first page, and there is a big difference whether you put that on paper, because paper needs everything. People want tooltips rather than footnotes. So I don't think that if we would solve the problem of form factor, and I agree, it's an interesting idea, we would still have the requirement for very responsive documents, and that's not only relation of form factor. And one last sentence. Some people might hate me for that. I don't think that PDF should be the format that is responsive in the future. If that's going to happen, I'm heavily supporting it. If not going to happen, I will still not throw myself behind the train. Behind, not in front, of course.
Yeah, I was starting to disagree, but now I agree. The thing is, form factor or not, my theory is that for content that needs to be easily consumed, like your average PDF brochure of some product or something like that, responsive design or scaling to different devices, screen sizes is an interesting thing. Honestly, my vision doesn't include PDF presenting advertising content in 20 years from now, because that will be on the web or in any other kind of format that is not evidentially. You know, my thing is content that is in PDF, just like you said, is evidence and is something that goes on an archive. And I think people couldn't care less about whether their text-relevant builds are responsive or not. So that's one point where we could see that for a time coming for the next couple of years or something like that, it could be interesting. In the long run, I think it's less interest, and that's my point where we should strictly consider not to break things that are the core value proposition of PDF by going responsive too far, let's say.
I guess maybe I would just like to add to that. Well, I'm not really sure if I agree with this whole point. I do agree with the fact that we shouldn't overload PDF, and maybe PDF is not the answer itself to being responsive. But I do agree with the fact that we are just, we do have to kind of go beyond sort of like the basic page representation. People need to use PDFs in various contexts. And if we want, especially if we want PDF to be more pervasive than it is today, we can't limit it just to the same representation that we've always had, because we cannot even dream up of all the use cases that might be happening in the future. We're kind of limiting ourselves if we feel that PDF content should not, whether it's reflow or be more accessible or be presented in various ways. So I feel like we do have to go beyond that sort of representation, but I do agree with the fact that, yeah, we might not solve that just by putting things into PDF. Yeah.
I just wanted to add one to your answer to that. I think it's really important to give people the choice, right? Just as no one would say, oh, we shouldn't make it accessible because it's not the way it was designed. It's the same thing if it's too hard to read on the mobile phone and they don't have yet the projected version, that we should make this in a way that people who need the text bigger can do that without having to exercise their fingers too much, and that sort of thing. So it wouldn't be, I'm not saying it should be required or even require really a change to the format, but just to make sure we serve as many people as possible.
Just two comments on comments that have been made. One about screen size. Since I was Adobe at the same time Richard was when this was happening, the average screen size for which PDF was originally displayed was a 15-inch CRT that was something you get a hernia lifting, okay? And everyone, oh, small sizes. you take a look at, let's say, the marketing collateral for companies doing design, you tend to see a bunch of millennial hipsters with tattoos like this with little things doing design work, but in reality they're sitting in a studio with two 30-inch 4K screens, a Wacom tablet, designing things that are, such as packaging and magazines, etc. So we really don't know what's going to happen. Turns out that 30-inch screen is lighter than my attaché case, my computer case here. Okay, so things may change such that it's very possible to have larger format display devices, maybe that you could fold up and put in your pocket. So that's something we really don't know. On the other side, it also turns out that we tend to think of PDF isolated. And to sort of quote a U.S. election campaign from a number of years back, it's the workflow, stupid, okay? We can't just look at PDF in isolation, okay? When you take a look at what is going to be consumed, you have to look at what's being designed. I'll give you a good example. Adobe used to produce white papers on how to use PDF. And they were 9-point Adobe Garamond, 8.5 by 11, whatever. And people were complaining it was not really accessible to them in many ways. It was not inviting, hard to read, etc. So I sort of gave a little bit of a hint to the people doing this. Why don't you turn it landscape, boost the point size to about 14 point, put some more illustrations in it, and voila, we had something that was much improved. It was the same type of PDF file, but the design was much more inviting. And there's nothing to say that you can't have a PDF file that has multiple representations in it, one for smaller and one for more complete. So there are possibilities, again, that don't require, a major revolution. But it's the whole end-to-end that really counts.
I do agree with you. I do agree with you that we shouldn't just be talking about smaller devices, because at the end we might be watching documents on large projectors that are transparent. Who knows? I mean, look at Star Wars. I don't know.
Might be projecting on
So
my glasses
exactly, right? So the keys, whatever the workflows of the future might be, whatever the applications, whatever the use cases, PDF should be able to adjust to that. But again, is it the only answer to change it, or is it the answer to maybe allow the other technologies to basically empower PDF in some sort of way?
Yeah, I take your point entirely, and I would, rather than imagine that, although it's very tempting to imagine these future technologies where all of a sudden a mobile device can be a large projection or a display system, or perhaps I carry it around on my contact lens, or maybe it's even fed directly into my brain. Oh wait, I already did that. I return to your point that the workflow is really the issue here. And one of the things that is increasingly struck me as I contemplated the PDF package idea is that the world has no decent solution for archiving email at this time. No interoperable solution, nothing that everybody agrees upon, not a single thing that everybody's heard of. Frankly, not a single thing that even 5% of people who use email, who depend upon email, who rely upon that sucker being there, have ever heard of, ever contemplated. No, if you're like me, you just pack it away in an archive folder and you hope for the best. I dare any of you to say you do better. Okay, those of you who make PDFs, maybe you're doing better right now. So one of the inspirations for the package concept was that, wait a minute, is there anything about email archives that we couldn't implement in the context of a PDF rendering and all the other data associated with the packet, with that collection of email? The obvious example is, well, attachments. They can be attachments in a PDF too. And structure, right? PDFs have relationships between each other from email to email. Well, this stuff is characteristically could be represented in XMP, and so on. You can go down the line and figure out a way, in principle, in which a profile of PDF could allow you to render an email box into a massive, great PDF, and then potentially reconstruct a mailbox from the PDF out the other end. I'm not recommending that particular solution per se, God forbid, but The point, I think, is that if we recognize that the value proposition of PDF comes in very great part from the fact of a rendering, and if we work with that and leverage that, we accept the fact that reuse may include going to a small screen for a mobile device, going to an ultra-large screen with different fonts maybe for some massive projection of my otherwise very small PDF file, that's fine. Those are all uses of PDF content, it seems to me. The ability of PDF to contain all this other stuff as well and include very rich metadata about that stuff, to me, there are whole open vistas of implementations and processes that respect and that consider workflow situations that I don't think we've begun to take advantage of yet in this industry.
All right, I think we've got time for one more question. We got Stefan in the corner here.
Yeah. Speaking of small devices, last year we had a lot of discussion about next generation PDF, and I was a little bit surprised to hear nothing at all this year. And I was approached by several people from the audience. Could you maybe say a little bit on what's the status on that, and if this is going to be part of the next 25 years of PDF or not?
So I can briefly address that. Broadly speaking, Next Generation PDF continues as a project within the PDF Association within a technical working group. It's fundamentally a set of discussions at this point. There's a work, I can tell you that one of the important pieces of work that we are getting to quite some significant development on is the idea of a concrete derivation algorithm to help to standardize the basis under which tagged PDF would be expressed as HTML, to give you that a particular example. My anticipation is that that will be one of the first products or publications of this effort in terms of next generation PDF. One of the things that we determined relatively, I think, early as we actually dug into the whole process is that number one, it's exceptionally complex. We have a lot of workflows and history to respect out there already. Number two, there are some inherent problems. For example, the ability of, the web doesn't really think in terms of a document as being secure if it's not also intimately or directly associated with a website. And of course, that's not really the PDF paradigm, at least at this time. The web doesn't have a paradigm for a free-floating document that it knows how to trust. So there are challenges to next generation PDF, but I think it's going to be an iterative process in which advances towards a next generation understanding of PDF, and indeed eventually the specifications to advance PDF to support these things will eventually emerge. I hope that's a reasonable answer for you.
If I could just add for 1 second to that, I think from a PDF UA community standpoint, one of the reasons why we're so focused on HTML as a starting point is that we have a big challenge in terms of exposed information, particularly on mobile devices to AT. Having an HTML rendition of content is one way of achieving a much richer API interface. Application APIs until recently didn't let you describe a table. So you couldn't describe a table on iOS until 6 months ago, and only because we felt both with Apple to allow us to do it. HTML doesn't have that restriction because the web browser has a direct accessibility API to the AT on the device. And so reuse, accessibility, content extraction, all facilitated by the work that the next generation working group is working.
Somebody wanted to say something? No, you wanted to say something.
No, I thought you wanted to say something.
No, I'll throw it at one of you. I'll just real quick.
I mean, Matthew said most of what I was going to say, but mostly it's just that a lot of the issues that Duff brought up that Adobe realized, some of the things that we're planning on, we needed to basically rethink, and so that's kind of where we were, as well as the PDF Association is with the next generation.
And I think that ultimately we cannot think of also as the next generation of PDF as sort of the solution to everything. I think it will just be a nice step towards helping also then other technologies reuse those PDFs. So if we enforce tagging and if we enforce certain structure or certain things in PDFs that will ultimately help machines interpret those things, it will just be a nice step towards that. So it doesn't have to be the perfect solution as well.
I hope that in maybe 5 years from now we will stop talking about PDF UA, because it must be obvious every PDF must be accessible. And not only because it's so politically correct to do accessible PDFs for disabled people. I mean, the most disabled guy in this entire environment are computers. If we want to do automated case management with artificial intelligence, we have to give these engines eyes and ears. And the only way to give them eyes and ears is to give them documents that they can read. And if they're not accessible, they are not good for nothing. So accessible documents, as I said, I hope that we will soon stop talking about that, and it will be obvious, and applications that are not able to support that will hopefully vanish from the market.
I was going to strongly agree, but I come back with a question. Something I've wrestled with is, what will it take to make that happen? What do you think that we can do here and companies behind us to really make that a reality?
I had a very nice discussion yesterday with some of the tagging experts and said, why the hell is tagging so important? And after a couple of minutes, so complex, not important. And after a couple of minutes, we came up with 10 examples where, sugar tagging. I think we have to do our homework as the PDF community. We have to push things. We have to tell people why we want that. We have to encourage people to support that. It takes some time, and I think it's. I'm happy to fight for that, but I'm absolutely convinced that we will be able to do that. And we also have to make sure, and that's a dream, that's not a vision, that there is no application that would not be able to produce PDF out of the box. We cannot produce PDF through printer drivers anymore. That just won't work in the future. And I think we as the PDF community are those that should stand for making the world a little bit better, and I think we have the power to do that.
Yeah, I agree. And we also saw during this conference here that there's many companies on the way to get their applications straight, to actually have an offering in the sense of tagging, in the sense of making documents accessible. So we saw several presentations. So I have high hopes that this topic will be seen differently, and that Harald's demand on every PDF is accessible will be fulfilled sooner than we might all think, because it's a topic that is now recognized. It hasn't been a topic in PDF days like 2 years ago. It has been very exotic. So the UA presentations have been attended by, that was the smallest room, and it wasn't even full. Today, I can say, for example, here, and as well as the PDF days that we had in Washington in January, this is drawing the biggest crowd. So I have high hope that this is now finally attacked by the community. And this is also something that is, okay, structure and PDF wasn't designed for that originally, but we do have the mechanisms in place. So basically it's a question that we get our applications up to speed, that they can most conveniently generate those required tags, that we have accessible PDF. There's nothing that needs to be invented that has a risk of breaking something other than next generation PDF, for example, where we have to be careful which feature to really put additionally into PDF or not. With UA or generally with accessibility, I have no doubts we get there without breaking something.
I would like to harp on the same topic, which is basically, it's not really just the PDF. It's education for everyone involved. When you create a document, you implicitly define a starting point for whether that document, the degree to which that document is accessible. If you do a design that has all sorts of strange flows and whatever, there's nothing you're going to do that's going to necessarily improve that beyond a rather mediocre level of accessibility. That is something that we have to make people who design documents cognizant of, such that you can tag them.
I agree.
but then we have to also stop putting other people's document into PDF files and say, and you find out yourself, you idiot, how you open that. If I agree, PDF is a great container, but storing Word documents into PDF, from my point of view, is not the right thing to do. First of all, because there's some people that don't have Word, and other because you need special applications. I think we, as PDF community, should think about how can we make sure that other content can be rendered into PDF. I would love to see an open discussion about how can we store audio and video to put that into a file format, to make and describe it somehow. I see a lot of insurance companies that now have the problem that people have claims, and instead of sending images of their cars with the damage, they send videos, and people just don't know how to store them. I think PDF could still be a place for that to do, but that takes a while. So I think instead of putting more other formats and find your own application, you idiot, we should start discussing how can we store other formats into PDF and make sure that they render the same way. That's a wish or a dream.
All right, thank you. Thank you, panel. I think we've reached time, but I want to give special thanks to everybody on the panel, to Richard, to Carsten, to Harald, to Catherine, and to Duff, not just for serving on this panel, but really for everything that you have done for PDF and for advancing along the art of communication. So thank you. I want to thank everybody else in this room that has been hard at work at PDF, and thank you for all your efforts likewise. And I want to invite everybody in this room. We may not know where PDF will be 25 years in the future, but we do know that you're welcome to help us shape and to make the future of PDF. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, panel.
Thank you, Matt.